wave. So I've been very disgusted by the way that the mainstream media has dealt with it. I've been disgusted by the way the Republican Party has dealt with this. Okay, the red wave did happen. It took a while. Um, the House has flipped, and I want to point out some things that are really concerning to me, and stuff that I think that the mainstream media is not pointing out, and it really upsets me. It really upsets me. So I am not going to use the AP map. I am really upset and disgusted with the Associated Press right now, and I'm going to tell you why. But what I've been going to is Decision Desk HQ, and Decision Desk HQ is somewhat controversial. I know that because Decision Desk HQ specifically has marketed themselves as an alternative to the Associated Press. And their big claim to fame was that they called the last presidential election for Biden early. And I know that's probably gets a lot of people upset because I know there are people that were upset when Arizona was called early by Fox. A lot of people were very upset about that. So they've got it on both sides is what I'm trying to tell you. So, with the previous election, they were probably criticized a little bit for calling it for Biden as early as they did. But you know what? That's their thing. Their thing is they think the Associated Press takes too long. And in this case, if you're a Republican, you've got to be looking at this like, okay, what's going on with the mainstream media? So we're going to look at some of these races, but I wanted to kind of show this. But the first thing I want to talk about is when these races were declared. So we've been covering the national scene and the red wave, and it took forever for anybody to call these races in California. I'm going to show you on the map. There are still some races that are still not called, even by Decision Desk HQ. But as of we've got as of, let's see here. I think my banner is actually in the way, and I can't tell you the actual time here. But here we go. Decision Desk made their call at 9:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, on November 15th. Okay, on November 15th. That's when they made their call about Mike Garcia. And Mike Garcia is basically like going to be forever the man who flipped the House. So that's the time that they did it for Decision Desk. Now I've got this screen capture for the AP. And here's the contrast here, okay? They waited until the next day, okay, at 3:32 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, okay? And you have to ask yourself, why did they wait? Why did they wait so long after this race had been decided, at least by Decision Desk? Why did they wait so long for the Associated Press, which everybody basically waits on the Associated Press? And so we're talking basically almost like a full day difference, okay? The previous evening, Decision Desk HQ had made the call, and it took the AP until the next day in the afternoon, almost 24 hours, over 12 hours later, right, to go ahead and make the decision themselves. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Why do you think so many of these races took so long to be called? And you have to ask yourself that. I think you should be asking yourself that whether you are a Democrat or Republican, independent, libertarian, green, whatever you are. You should be asking yourself that question. And you should be asking yourself, why is it taking so long to count some of these votes? What's going on in some of these counties? So when we talk about outstanding votes, California, it's funny because I feel in a lot of ways Arizona's a laughing stock, but California was worse. So if you look at some of these places, we've got two Republican-leaning races right here. 78% of the ballot. 78%. Again, this broadcast is November 19th. Okay. And this California district is only at 78%, and it's leaning Republican. Okay. David Vallado is leading his challenger, Rudy Salas. He's got 482,000 to 44,862 votes to 40,315. And this is still not even at 80%. Not even at 80%. This other district that's in contention for the Republicans, John Duarte, he is leading Adam Gray, 63,539 votes to Adam Gray's 62,674 votes. And we've got, this is almost, okay, just under 88%, 87.98%. But still, I mean, if we look at Arizona, we look at some of these races, we're talking 95%, right? 95% in. I'm looking at some of these different races in Arizona. 95% of the votes are in for most of these races, 95% or more. I just don't understand it. And if anybody lives in California and you can kind of explain what's going on in District 13 and also District 22 and why it's taking so long. Because, like, for instance, if we go to, let's see if I can find Pelosi's district, because Pelosi's district was called almost, not only was it called almost immediately, okay, but the vote count, I mean, the actual percentage of the vote count that was counted was very high. So unfortunately, I'm having some trouble getting her specific race. I apologize for that. It's just because I think her district is actually like really, really small, so it's hard to get it. But I know for a fact that gave me the Senate results. I know for a fact that that her race was called very quickly, and it was like 80%, of the districts. Like, it was just like that. So I would love to know if anybody has some insight into this as to why these places are dragging their feet. Now let's look at a couple other races that are important. Alaska is a weird one. If we look at Alaska, Mary Peltola, she is leading right now by far. She's got 48%, almost 49% of the vote, 127,364. Closest challenger is Sarah Palin, 67,485. The thing is, that's important here is Alaska has this ranked voting system that I think is bizarre. Maine does as well. We're going to talk about Maine in a second. So the way this is going to work is if Mary doesn't get over 50%, which looks like she's not, she's at 95% of the districts are reporting in. So it looks like she's not going to get there. What's going to happen is they're going to start going down the list. And you've got this guy, Chris Bai. So the first thing that's going to happen is he's going to get thrown out, and they're going to look at his second choices. So people were allowed to have a second choice. And the question is, did they choose Mary, Sarah, or Nick? Nick is a Republican who ran against Sarah, and of course is dividing the Republican vote. So what's going to happen is we're going to see Chris Bai, get thrown out of the race, and then his second votes will go to whoever. And if that gives Mary the edge, it's over, right? But if that doesn't give Mary the edge, then they're going to go to Nick, and they're going to throw him out and go to his second choice. And that's going to decide it, right? Based on these numbers, I think that's going to decide it. If there enough of his supporters took Mary as their second choice, it's over. She wins. If not, then Sarah Palin might win. Weird race. Since we're talking about that weird voting system, Maine is in the same position. Maine, we've got a District 2 race here that they have not called because of the same issue. So this will be decided by Tiffany Bond, who I don't know what her party affiliation is, but it's going to probably come down because she got over 7% of the vote, and there's about a 4% difference between the Democrat and the Republican. So whoever her second choices were, if it's Bruce or Jared, if assuming they broke decidedly one side or the other, Maine could also be in contention. Another race that I've been watching is the Colorado race. This is interesting because this went to an automatic recount. This is Lauren Boebert. She's kind of she's pretty famous, I think, for the conservative side, the very Trump side of the Republican Party, which I don't know if I would really say that is necessarily the conservative side. That's a debate for another time. But she's a little bit of a superstar, I would say, certainly within the Trump circles. And she had a very, very close race. You can see here 163,832 votes to Adam First's 163,278. Really close race there. Really, really close race. This is going to automatic recount, but Adam has conceded this race. So they haven't called it. But Adam Finch has conceded. So right now, Decision Desk is showing 219 Republicans. They needed 218, 211 Democrats. So we've still got these contested races in Maine. Colorado is going to recount, and we've got these 2 districts in California as well as Alaska. Those, as far as I know, are the only real seats that we're still looking at as far as the House. But the red wave has happened. And again, this media coverage, I'll put up the screenshots again real briefly for these races that were called by Decision Desk. Same race for Mike Garcia. This is the person who flipped it. And you can just see the different times. And we're talking about over a 12-hour time difference in calling this. And this is the kind of stuff that I think makes people conspiratorial. It's because, like, why did it take so long for the AP to call this? Why did it take so long for these votes to be counted? I've got the graphic up right now for California. What is going on with District 22? Under 80,000, under 80% of the votes have been counted. What's going on in District 21? Okay, they're doing better. They're at almost 88%, but still, these are Republican-leaning races. What is taking so long? Okay. We know what's taking so long in Maine, and we know what's taking so long in Alaska. We know what's taking so long in Colorado. We have answers to those, okay? Maine and Alaska have screwed up elections. I'm just going to say it that way because I think it's screwed up. I don't like it. And Colorado, I mean, the margin is just so close. They have to go to automatic recount. But the fact of the matter is the Democrat has already conceded. So there's spin going on. There's a combination of spin, and I think there are people that are delaying these votes. They do not want to, one of the things, a friend of mine, I was talking to him about it, and he was saying, you know what? Because he's not an election denier or anything like that. He's not in that category. But he said, you know what? I can see some of these places being like, I don't want to be the race that calls the House for the Republicans. So they drag their feet. And certainly that's within their power to do so. That's not conspiratorial. And I do think that there has been an effort to demoralize Republicans and tell them there was no red wave, right? Because there are these ridiculous numbers. Like, I think some people I saw one person, they responded to me, and they were talking about like, oh, well, they needed to win like 40 seats in order for it to be a red wave. Says who? Says you? Okay. No. To be a red wave, we've got to take the House. And I've said this from the beginning. Now, being in Arizona, yes, I'm very concerned about the governor's race. I don't understand it. I really don't, because I just don't understand it. Katie Hobbs is not a strong candidate, in my opinion, in any way, of any form of the word. She's not a strong candidate, in my personal opinion. But, okay, the thing that was most important is we got the House. Republicans got the House. I am a Republican. And so that's the most important thing, because that allows the Republicans to take, the Biden administration's agenda off the rails. Okay. And we have to remember the Senate. Let's not forget the Senate, because to maintain would be awesome for the Republicans, because that is a legitimate griping point, right? That the Republicans actually lost seats in the Senate, right? So the Georgia runoff is going to be critical. The Georgia runoff is going to be critical as far as establishing, the extent of the red wave, if you will. I mean, everybody knew that was going to be close. We all knew that, McConnell was not supporting a lot of candidates out there. Who he did support was questionable. I know he didn't support Blake Masters, which I think is absolutely disgusting. He should not be the leader, the minority leader for the Republican Party. I wish they'd get rid of him. And one thing I also don't understand is they already did the vote for the way they look at it. It's like the Republicans' candidate for speaker, because obviously they can't do the real vote, I assume, until the actual Congress comes in. But why are they doing that vote before the new Congress comes in? And that's an open-ended question. And I know they've probably always done it that way, or at least for a long time they've done it that way. But that doesn't explain it, does it? We've got to have some reforms in these political systems. And I'm not a big party guy. We've used Washington's quote on this show about how crappy political parties are, and George Washington's famous quote about that. So when I see stuff like this, when I see that the Speaker of the House, the Republicans have already decided on their candidate for Speaker of the House when the new Congress hasn't come in yet, that's a problem. They're going to do a vote in the Senate if they haven't done it already for Mitch McConnell. The new Congress hasn't come in. We've got a runoff coming up in Georgia. All right. So that to me is not acceptable. And I don't know why we accept that. I don't understand that. And we need to question these things. I think we need to question these things. And we need to question media coverage, and we need to question how these votes are tabulated. That should be the big message out there is, all right, who is deciding which votes are coming in when, right? How is that being decided? So I think that's relevant. I think that's important.